We see it in our daily lives, in rising costs, declining services.
Guys, we're going live from this big Alberta Independence event. We have speakers here. I'm going to show you how many people we have.
The system is no longer delivering what it promised. This referendum will not solve every problem overnight, but it will do something essential. It will force honesty into the system and return responsibility where it belongs, with the people. Self-determination is not radical. Democratic participation is not dangerous. Asking a question is not treason. An informed and engaged citizenry is not a threat to democracy. It is proof that democracy is still alive. Alberta's future will not be built by fear, but by those willing to meet it head-on with clarity, integrity, and resolve. This moment demands confidence. The people have a will, the people have a voice, and when that will and voice is heard, it must be respected. And that's why we're here today, because hope deserves a response. We are here today answering that call.
Yes, guys, it's a huge turnout today. Just want to show you exactly what is going on so that you don't get misled by traditional media where they were saying there will be 4 people. I don't know if you won't be able to hear me or not. I'm trying to be quiet so you can feel the atmosphere itself on what's going on here.
Encourages disagreement rather than punishing it. Insisting on leadership that respects citizens instead of disparaging them. And calling for a government that is transparent about how public money is spent. Yeah. And most of all, we're here because we believe in a place where the basics of a good life are now not out of
I'm just going to the
reach,
very back right
where
now
streets are
to show
safe,
you how many people are here because you
where
won't be able to
groceries
see it
are affordable,
from the front.
where families can get ahead, where our youth can build a future. Where hard work is rewarded and not eroded by policies made far away. Public trust cannot be demanded, it must be earned. A free society does not tell its people to sit down, stay quiet, and do as you're told. A free society.
You mean to meet Derek? I'll see if I can meet him. That would be amazing. I met so many of you guys here today already.
So if you're tired of being dismissed, of being told
At
to
least
comply without question,
25 people from this channel I met today, minimum.
This is your moment. I am inviting all of you to make your voices heard.
At least from those who came and said hello.
Clearly, confidently, and so that Ottawa hears it once and for all.
Hello, Avatar.
Which one's up? Oh, here we go.
I lost my voice today, guys. I'm a little bit sick. I don't even know if you can hear me on the microphone right now. I lost my voice, but I'm going
Now
to
for the man of the hour.
see. I want you to hear the atmosphere here.
To an independent republic. Mitch Sylvester speaks on missed justices, federal government, current events, and our plan for our current referendum petition.
No, guys, I'm not
Ladies and
getting paid
gentlemen,
anything for this.
please put your hands together and welcome Mitch Sylvester to the stage.
Thank you very much. I've never taken a selfie, but I'm going to take a picture with all of you right now. Thank you. Let's stop politics. How many of you is the first political meeting? Hands up. Oh, there's a lot of veterans in the room. Do you agree that the province of Alberta shall cease to be a part of Canada to become an independent state? Just in case there's a question out there. That question is directly out of the clarity. The word state does not mean 51st state. So just understand, we spent a month in court on the last question, so this one we took exactly out of the Clarity Act, it's in the Canadian Constitution, so that is what it is. It means that we will become an independent country on our own. But just to be clear, I get asked that every night, and away we go.
Well, see, I'll try to find Derek. I'll try to find him, guys.
And every Canadian desires that the great trade of the birds shall go to enrich our people in the East, to build up factories in the workshops of Eastern Canada, and contribute in every way to its prosperity. So how about this? We desire, every Albertan desires, that the great trade of Alberta shall go to enrich our own people, our kids, to build up factories and the workshops of Alberta and contribute in every way to our prosperity. We're the business arrangement. This is what people in the East think about us. In the West will think the rest.
This is Marty from Axe taking reels here. It's another influencer from Axe.
They didn't respect you.
Well,
And continue to abuse you with restraint and administration. The Federation is working exactly the way it's designed to work. Understand this? Western Canada has a population of 11.7 million people. They have 24 senators. Atlantic Canada has a population of 2.4 million and has 3 senators. But it gets worse. Alberta has a population of 4.4 million people and has 3 senators. Twice as many people as Atlantic Canada, and they have 3 senators. How can we possibly get a decision go our way? And it's no different than the other side of the house. This is how the country's broken.
just want to show you how many people are on this side.
14 and 14 makes 28. That's 70. Add 34 Alberta seats. That doesn't even add up to what Ontario has. Supreme Court justices, 2 for all of Western Canada, 3 for Ontario, 3 for Quebec, 1 for the Maritime. And equalization payments, how does that work? Well, I'll tell you how it works. Quebec doesn't put Hydro-Quebec in their balance sheet. So Alberta puts oil patch in their balance sheet, and Quebec becomes a half-lot province, so the consequence of that, and we end up paying them a whole bunch of money. And $13.3 billion, and it's year after year. But here's a slide that I really want you to pay attention to. Those numbers are equalization payments per taxpayer. Look at the number in New Brunswick, $6,500 per taxpayer. In PEI, $6,100 per taxpayer. I want you to understand something. They are buying votes with our money. That's exactly what they're doing. We give $47 billion a year to Ottawa, every single year. $40,000 per Alberta household. And the pension, let's go there. So first thing I want you to understand is you will not lose your pension. You will remain a Canadian citizen in the free and independent Alberta. The second thing I want you to see is who's paying the bill. Look at that big red line in the corner line. That's what Alberta pays. BC pays 8.9 million. Everybody else is a net taker. Understand this. Alberta seniors collect $6 million a year. Our taxpayers pay $9 million a year to the CPP. We have a $3 million a year overage. That $3 million, according to the CPP Act, is supposed to go into a fund for our seniors. And that's in the 60s. And that's a role of Ontario did because they didn't want to pay more this year. But what happened?
For those of you guys who are not from Canada, it's a petition for Alberta independence. So Alberta wants to exit Canada.
Why hasn't she done it? That number, that bottom
Alberta wants to separate from Canada into its own country. That's what it is.
Now I want you to unpack that a little bit. Just understand this. CPP is going to get 9.5%, so we'll round it off 10% interest. So just the interest on that money is $40 million a year, plus a $9 million contribution. Our seniors collect $6. We would have a $43 million net on that. We can afford to give our seniors a six-fold increase in pay and not touch the rest of it.
Exactly, just like Brexit.
This is one of the town halls that I hosted in Premier, and she said something that I remember, and it was the way she said it, it was one way she said it, and anything else. When I became Premier, I thought I would fix everything in 6 or 7 months. Everything is going good. At her level, that means everything's not fixed. Look at Mr. Carney's given us. All the major projects, all was announced. You see any in Alberta? Absolutely not. But there should be aware of 4,000 organized crime groups operating within Canada. 4,000 organized crime groups. It's because we have no racketeering and no money laundering policy. And look at the crime that's risen in Canada in the past 10 years. Look at the bottom 3. Human trafficking, extortion, pornography. That's all organized crime type stuff. Let's look at what the Liberals have done to us in the last 10 years. Just in case you're feeling bad about this. Understand that Alberta is one of the richest pieces of real estate in the world, if not the richest. We would easily be...
Just want to ask a question for all of you on the live stream. Can you hear what the speaker is saying?
It's a group of people that understand how to work, understand how to produce, we're producers, we're business people, and what we really wish is all that they have our state of name, and they know our rules, so we can all our responsibilities. We cannot negotiate with law. I was asked several times today, even I did the CTC interviews, I said, what do you think of an independent Alberta within Canada? An independent Alberta within Canada. I said, it's not possible. And they said, why is that? I said, because you can't negotiate with criminals. They create for themselves a legal system that authorizes it, and we're all going to organize it. An audit of $187 billion worth of world infrastructure impacts 15,000 projects. Now let's unpack that for a minute. Just understand what that means. What that means is that the projects were paid for.
Okay, I'll get closer to the podium then.
Right? They paid for 20,000 projects out of a $187 billion budget, but those projects are never built. There's a billboard, it's like $254 million. It was a account. Lifetime. Let's talk about Lifetime. What do? They went to court, they lost, so the judge still did for 75 years. Mr. Trudeau's $100 million rainy fund, 250 scandal, we didn't account for the money. $250 million spent on the vaccine factory that never built the vaccine. So we're already talking about $1 billion worth of theft there that we can see very clearly. And someone has to put in a little question. Do we elect kings? How many people in the room think that the Liberal government is stupid? Hands up. So that's the problem. We understand what's happening. We know they're doing it. They know they're doing it. But then, what are we going to do about it? So they sealed that for 75 years. So I'm going to ask another question. Do you think they would do that if it was you? It's all much money. Mr. Trudeau said, $11,000 billion on overseas gender program. $11,000 billion. Now I ask you, how many do you think that there was any money laundering going on? So let's just play this game. So we go to a foreign government and say, you know what, I'm going to give you $1 billion for a gender program. Would you give me $900 million back? What do you think the odds are to that? I'm not sure that happened. I'm not going to pretend that I know that happened. But I think it did. And one thing I want you to know about that is once that money leaves the country, what can they trace it? Foreign interference is the greatest strategic threat facing Canada's national security, says CSIS.
I think the biggest security threat to Canada is China. We're heartened by the leadership of President Xi Jinping and the speed with which our relationship has progressed in response. I believe the progress that we have made in partnership sets us up well for the new world.
Absolutely said that he agreed that we had a foreign interference problem. But Mr. Trudeau found 11 federal candidates that China reportedly aided in our election. So does that mean that we have free and fair election? And why didn't Mr. Trudeau have to look at it? He said he couldn't find anybody. I found one for him, Mary G. See that look on her face? She's being asked right now what happened to the $130 million that her ministry had to create startups and jobs, and she didn't know where it went. And she didn't know what to do. How is it possible that we can make a deal with these people when they're absolutely criminal, and everybody knows it, including them? And this is where this all started. In 2015, Mr. Trudeau said, there's no core identity, no mainstream in Canada. And consequently, that makes us the first post-national state. New World Order. That started in 2015. They've been planning that ever since. There is nothing accidental about the path we're on. Not one thing accidental about the path we're on. Here's the ring that controls all the rings. In 1954, there was a statute in the Criminal Code of Canada that said it was illegal for the media to lie to the public. However, in 2019, yeah, that's funny, right? But it never used to be that way. However, in 2019, Bill C-39 was voted on and passed in Parliament to remove it. So they can lie to you. So our government passed a bill that made it legal for them to lie to you. Step one. Step two, Mr. Trudeau said the very concept of a nation founded by European settlers is offensive to me. He's offended by us. Old stock white Canadians are an unpleasant relic and quite frankly replaceable. And we will replace them. So let's just be very clear here. I'm not mad at the immigrants. They came here for what they thought we had growing up. I can't be angry with them. That's not their problem. The problem here is uncontrolled immigration, and what did he do? Look at the graph. 2015, when Mr. Harper was in power, 15 million immigrants have come into Canada since 2015. We have a population of 44 million. 15 million new people. Since then, it's like having to build an Edmonton infrastructure in Edmonton every year to keep up that.
I think I found friends.
1.94 million temporary resident applications.
Is this the person you're saying I should meet, guys?
I'm going to ask you a question really about national security. If we're allowing 2 million immigrants into the country every year, would it be unreasonable to think that maybe 200,000 of them could be foreign soldiers? I'm just asking you. Would that be unreasonable to think that? So, why would our government do that to us? Peter Sullivan, who used to work for the UN, he said this: we must use migration to turn English people into a minority in England. This will allow us to undermine the identity of the native English and import a new majority who will end the very idea of England. This is critical for globalism to take a hold of England. Ladies and gentlemen, that is what's happening here. Very clearly. And if you think it's an accident, the UN has a paper called Replacement Migration. There it is. Canada, step 3 now. Immigration, control the media. Step 3, Canada has 33 taxes, the highest in the world. All about the middle class. They're doing it on purpose. Without a question, here they are. Carbon tax, personal income tax, corporate income tax, GST, excise taxes on fuel, alcohol, tobacco, cannabis, air travel security tax, luxury tax, provincial territorial tax, capital gains tax, land transfer tax, media tax, population tax, EPP tax, business tax. It's exhausting just saying it. Can you imagine paying? And we are. We pay it all the time. Step 4, inflation. Do you know that if we print double the money supply, it halves the value of money? Right, so understand that your money, if you had $100,000 in the bank, and then they double the money supply, 5 years later they double the money supplies, that money would only buy half of what it bought on day 1. And they understand that. They totally understand. And not only that, they borrow all that money, we're paying $1 billion a week in interest on it. And what would you do if you were in business? If you borrowed money, you would want to pay it back. But what do? They sabotage our oil bill. By far, the biggest industry in the country. So how are you supposed to pay that debt back if they carbon cap you, eliminate jobs, eliminate business opportunity, and they're doing it on purpose? They don't like us. Energy, West Coast, we say we're landlocked. We're not landlocked, we're policy locked. They bring tankers full of oil down the St. Lawrence every day. But yet we can't put a tanker on the West Coast. We can change that if we live in Alberta. We can change those rules. And carbon tax. Carbon taxes cost Canadians billions over 5 years, hurting the economy while reducing CO2 emissions by 11.9 gigatons. China emits 11.9 gigatons every day and a half. So we're shutting our entire oil industry down based on this lie. Because I'm going to ask you a question, even if it was legit. We sell them coal. We sell them coal. The coal comes right from here. Leaves the point of Vancouver and goes straight to China. And that CO2, unless I'm mistaken, doesn't just sit over China. It would blow all over the place. So what's happening is the government is using this to do all of the other stuff. The globalists would like to keep our industries in the ground where they can see them in a nice safe place, because this is a nice safe country. But they don't want you to benefit from them. They want to benefit from them. None of the biggest CO2 producing nations in the world pay carbon tax, just us. Carbon tax revenue, there you go, you see the big countries in there. You see the USSR, you see the USA, you see China, you see Pakistan, you see India on that. No. And Danielle just signed this MOU with them, and Carney's celebrating a 6-fold increase in carbon tax. I'll ask you a question, and that was supposed to be a win. How can increasing carbon tax by 6-fold help the people of Alberta? It's going to cost us $6 to $10 a barrel more to produce our oil. Make us non-competitive. And to top that off, they built pathways. You know what pathways is? That's all part of this MOU. Pathways is a carbon-sucking machine that will take CO2 and turn it into liquid and inject it into the ground, and then it's poisonous. It might increase oil flow, if we haven't got a carbon problem, why should Alberta taxpayers spend $50 billion on carbon? In addition to everything else they're doing. So, we're putting this out of work, we're creating more money, making life harder for all of you. And they're doing it on purpose. Carbon tax was ruled illegal in Alberta, but the aforementioned Supreme Court held it up. Went right to the top, we won, they said, no, we can't do that. Here's where the rubber meets the road. Norway, which started after us, they produce 2.1 million barrels of oil a day. Alberta produces 4.6 million barrels of oil a day. They have a $1.95 trillion US oil fund, and we're $100 billion in debt. How's that? Do you actually think that if we were negotiating our own deals, building our own pipelines, because we couldn't negotiate with BC, you know, because BC sends 70% or 80% of its trade from those ports right through Alberta. We could tariff them day one. And then they would have to play nice. Now just imagine the difference it would make in our lives if we had a $2 trillion US oil fund that comes to about $340,000 US per citizen. Now all of our trade goes south. People say you're landlocked. Well, we're already landlocked. And 88% of our trade goes south. And not only do they attack our oil patch, they attack our farms. In the next emergency, they said, but they will be able to come to your farm and seize your land at your, and that's a law, 1893. And what just happened to the ostriches? Those are dead ostriches, my friends over there. They seized that herd. COVID was a mess. COVID is what got me involved in politics. Never was involved in politics before. So we, actually our government, put out a paper, Alberta's COVID-19 pandemic response. And I'm just asking you, to this day, the leading cause of death in Alberta the last several years was unknown causes. I'm going to share with you that there is no such thing as unknown causes. And we got this study done, it never went anywhere. Why is that? Government minister admits that COVID restrictions are all about political power and control. Well, that's what it's all about. Digital ID. We're talking about digital ID. Bring it here. If they have digital ID and digital currency, that's going to trap us. Bill C8, you will be kicked off the internet, and you will have no recourse. Our base said, C8, C9 come through, we will no longer be free people. Now here's the other thing, if you think this is nonsense. Red flag with a gun grab is your neighbors will be able to squeal on you, and they will go to your house and take your guns. They don't have to tell you who told on you. You will not have due process, and you will have to go prove to them that you were not guilty. This is real, this is Canada. Listen to this, Bill C9. So I'm asking the question, why is our government passing these kind of laws? C9 is a very dangerous bill. It uses the concept of naming a group. A political entity, the Ordering Council, names a group a hate group, pursuant to 83.01. From there, the members of the group are all guilty by virtue of possession of the symbol. Mark Miller, the liberal, in debate, names the Bible and Torah as hate, and states there is no legitimate religious defense against the group is Christians or Jews, and because he said other religious texts, the Quran. This enables the government to target the religious individuals as part of the group. This is exceptionally evil, broad, and typical only of communist countries. So I want to read you this part, which I find is really interesting in why I have this slide. There is an unlimited forfeiture clause. Is it your house, your bank account, is it your life? You are the person by which the means of the offense was committed. This clause, never written, because this is what happens next. It says, it may, in addition to other punishment imposed, be ordered by the presiding provincial court judge or judge to be forfeited to his majesty in right of the province in which that person is convicted for disposal. As the Attorney General may direct. What's that all about? This is Canada. And here we go. They're coming for our guns. The amnesty will be over in October. I explained to the Premier. I said to the Premier, at the end of it, so they're going to stop paying for them in March. And then they're going to come for them in October. But if you don't give them up, you're going to become a criminal on that day. Our Premier says, oh no, we're not going to let them come to your house. We're going to tell the RCMP they can't enforce that. But what if you leave Alberta? So if you leave Alberta, they'll make you a criminal on day one. Okay, not even if you leave Alberta, they will know that you have these guns, so restricted guns, so they'll make you a criminal. Then the next thing they can do is you can't have a pal and be a criminal. So they're going to take your pal away. At that point, then they're absolutely able to go to your house and get all of your guns, even your non-restricted ones. And there's a 3-year jail penalty for that. And we've asked the Premier repeatedly, why do we not have Alberta gun laws? But they don't seem to want to. This is a 3-year battle. We've been fighting this battle for 3 years with them. We need an Alberta gun license. They don't want to do it. So, just in case you didn't know, guns don't kill people. People kill people. Honduras, with a population of 8.2 million people, bans guns. Highest homicide rate in the world. Switzerland trains its 17, 18-year-olds to become soldiers and then sends them home with their automatic weapon. There's a fully automatic weapon in every house in Switzerland with a trained soldier that knows how to use it. And I think that's a great deal. And you have all the outside rate in the world. So I just went over that with what the Premier said, so let's go here. She said that if you don't want to get shot, don't break into anybody's house. But then she's going to stand up for us to get our guns taken back, and I wish she would. But I'm going to give her some slack right now, so just so you know. We're here because we changed Bill 14. And I have not lost the sight of that. However, this gun stuff is very concerning to me. Because she's going to make a criminal out of 350,000 Albertans in one crack if we don't change that. So, as good as this is, allow us to pursue this path that we're on, that has to be addressed. And the well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. I fully believe that. So, let's check out what's going on with our economy. We grew 1.4% in 10 years. There's absolutely no way that they can do that unless they try. They have to try to do that. There's no way that you can do that in this country with everything we have. We'll only grow our economy 1.4% in 10 years. And Mr. Trudeau, having done all that, gives the keys to Mr. Carney, the business genius. And $85 billion worth of investment left there because you know what? People are seeing it. They don't want to spend any money here because they don't see a business case for it. In his book, Mr. Carney says this: Western society is morally rotten, and that has been corrupted by capitalism, which has brought about a climate emergency. This, he claims, requires rigid controls on personal freedoms. More rigid controls on personal freedoms. C8, C9, he's showing us that. Assets will be stranded. What he ultimately wants is a technocratic dictatorship. So if we unpack that, a technocratic dictatorship is unelected big business running our country. We talked about carbon tax already. So what happened? Since the business genius got into business, our economy shrank another 0.3% in October. And what does he do? Pumps $33 billion into bureaucracy. Again, another drain on us. These people do not produce anything. They're totally conscious of what they're doing. They're consciously crippling our economy and consciously hurting us. And he's got 103 ethics violations. Each one of those is a crime. Every one of those he should be impeached for. Every one. I watched them flat out lie to a CBC reporter. A CBC reporter asked him if he had any business conflicts. He said, no. Basically, read my lips. No, I don't have any. And since he's been in Prime Minister, there's been 42 contracts. All have been with Brookfield. Imagine. And Canada pledges $4.3 billion to the Ukraine at the G7. 2 days later, Brookfield gets a contract for $4.3 billion to rebuild the Ukraine. True story. You can't even make that up. 12,500 dead from AIDS. We lead the world in assisted suicide. And what do? They take and sell the organs. These are the people that we're dealing with. $93 billion on UBI, I'll let Jeff get into that. So here's the problem. We don't have a CO2 problem, we've got a corruption problem. And there's no fixing this corruption problem. So here's the pattern. I saw Jim at the Prairie Rising conference and he came, and he made a profound impact on me. His currency, his blood being currency, is something that really hit home with me. Because here we are, we have a path here, and our currency that we have to spend right now is our time. We don't have to get shot, we don't have to get shot at. We have to spend our time and work really hard at this, sign up to be a canvasser, and talk to your neighbors. That's the way this gets done. Absolutely crystal clear here. Everybody says to me about the soft metal in Calgary, these people. Well, I'm going to share something with you. There's only two sides to this. Either you're a globalist or you're with us. It's that simple. Everybody wants to play elbows up and use the hockey thing. And I played a little bit of hockey, I understand how that works. How it works is you have the bully running around the ice, intimidating your players. And your players, because they're being intimidated, lose all their fine motor skills. So what's going to happen is they're going to come to you with all these fear-mongering things, and they're going to try to scare you and freeze you in one spot. It's going to take courage to get through this. So if you're in the hockey rink, and I can guarantee you I know about this, you decide if you're going to put up with that or you're going to stand up for your team and your teammates. You go stand up beside that guy, and what do you say? Come on, let's go! And then you fight. Thank you very much.
Our next guest very rarely needs an introduction. Jeff Rath, constitutional lawyer, legal counsel for Stayford, Alberta, board of directors of the AP Society. Jeff is a constitutional lawyer with 34 years experience. He's a leader and strong supporter of Alberta independence, being the only option for Alberta. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome super lawyer Jeff Rath.
So
real sign language interpreter, not a fake sign language interpreter like they had at Nelson Mandel's funeral. She's the real deal. We spent real money for this. It's awesome. Thank you, Sue. Appreciate you. Now, while we're on that subject, I want to thank all of the canvassers that were here today. Over 150 of your fellow Albertans got the canvassing badges, went through the canvassing training, and made sure that nobody had to stand out in the cold for more than 5 or 10 minutes. Right? We got through the lineup this morning, the 600 people that were lined up before we opened at 11. We got through that line in about 30 minutes because we could just run people through 150 people at a time. It was awesome this morning. So for Jason Kenny, who said we're just a bunch of malcontents sitting in a bar in Didsbury that couldn't organize a 2-car funeral procession, wake up. This is what Alberta looks like. If you fired you once, we don't need to hear it from you again. Right? Now, the next thing I want to talk about tonight is how important, Mitch has already touched on it, how important it is for all of you to go to stayfreealberta.com, and if you can, if you got the time, it doesn't take a lot of time, please register as a canvasser and get your canvassing badges. Because each and every one of you probably has 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 people in your circle that other people can't get to. They might not actually want to go out and find a signing location or go to an event. You've all got those people in your circle. You know, whether it's your mom or your dad or your grandparents in a lodge, you know, whether it's you're going to a family reunion, whatever it is, you know, we want to get to 1.8 million signatures, right? That would be more than the people who voted in the last election in Alberta. If we could get to that number, we wouldn't even have to have a referendum. So it's going to take all of us working together to get there, right? I was kind of laughing this morning, our little friend, little Tommy the basic, right? Little Tommy, right? He was actually on Twitter today saying, oh, an Alberta independence referendum, it's inevitable now. It's inevitable. I mean, we're not even through the first quarter and that little weasel's already throwing in the towel. Right? Way to go, Alberta. So, you know, all of this is moving forward exactly the way it should and exactly the way we always imagined it would, right? Albertans, notwithstanding anything they say from, you know, Quebec, oh, Alberta has no culture, right? We do have a culture. You know, we wake up in the morning, we work hard, we make money to take care of our kids, raise our families, take care of our parents, right, and live good, industrious lives. That is the culture of Alberta. I like to whine about this a little bit, but we all know that the Liberal Party and Mark Carney are an existential threat to the province of Alberta. Right? We talk about our Alberta culture. We talk about, you know, the fact that we have a culture that involves hard work, industriousness, working together as a people, right? And they want to destroy that culture. And their plan for destroying that culture, you know, is twofold. Mitch touched on, you know, the unchecked issuance of international mobility permits, temporary foreign worker visas, you know, student visas for people that never leave and they don't know where they are, right? Well, we have an over 9.5% unemployment rate in Alberta right now. Our youth unemployment is over 12.5%. Our Indigenous unemployment is over 24%. Does anybody here think we need any temporary foreign workers to take those jobs? Right? Does anybody here, we know people that live in Calgary, we're waiting with bated breath, you know, for the next announcement of the summer water restrictions because Nenshi wouldn't maintain our water system, right? So we live in a city, right? Calgarians live in a city. Thankfully, I live in the country and I have a well. But anyway. But, you know, Calgarians live in a city, right, where we don't have enough water, we don't have enough room in our classes for our kids, we don't
have enough room in our emergency rooms, and people are literally dying in our ERs because they can't get proper service. And it's because our schools, in our ERs, our water system, our power system, everything, all of our infrastructure is being completely overrun by all these temporary foreign workers, international mobility program workers, and the rest that Carney is intentionally flooding Alberta with. Right? How many people voted for that? Right? So one of the things that we need to keep in mind is there is a solid future. And I don't want to spend the entire evening, bitching about Mark Carney because it's an easy thing to do. But I do want to finish off on the thought of what the Liberals are doing or planning to do to destroy our culture. Mitch touched on universal basic income. How many people here know what that means? Right? A few, okay? So universal basic income is a plan by the Liberals, right, to destroy our children, okay? So first thing they want to do is, along with the universal basic income bill, they want to bring in a bill to lower the voting age in Canada to 16, okay? The reason they want to lower the voting age to 16 is so that our 17-year-old kids can vote on a bill called universal basic income, right, that will allow them to drop out of school at the age of 17 and be given $2,000 a month to stay home and not work, not go to school, not have a plan to go to school, have a plan to go to work, just stay home, smoke government legalized marijuana and play video games, and they'll be paid $2,000 a month, right? How many people here raise their kids to live like that? Right? No one, right? That is a direct attack on our culture, it's a direct attack on our children, and we will not stand for it. And of course, the easiest way to stop all of this is for all of us to keep doing what we're doing, coming out to events like this, getting our canvassing badges, getting our fellow Albertans to sign what people are calling the Alberta Declaration of Independence petition, right? And doing all of that to vote ourselves the hell out of Canada. The reason we're doing that, and the reason we're doing it, and I see lots of parents here with their kids today, and I just love it, right? I want to shout out to the two beautiful kids in the front row today with your family, and all the other parents that have brought their children out today to witness their parents signing the Alberta Independence petition. There are lots of kids and lots of families in here today. That's what this movement is all about. Right? We want a future for our children. We want our kids to be able to move out of mom and dad's basement and afford a home, right? We want our kids to be able to afford rent, right? When rent, because of the fact that we've been flooded with all of these federal government subsidized foreign workers, international mobility program workers, and the rest of it, incidentally, all of whom are given more money than our senior citizens and our veterans, right? Taking apartments, driving up rents, making life in general miserable, because that's how Mark Carney and the globalists want us to live, right? They don't live that way. They fly around in their private jets, they meet in Davos, they all talk about how, we're basically a bunch of sheep that need to be herded and taken care of, according to them, right? Don't eat meat, oh no, cows fart too much, right? Can't have beef anymore. While we're on that subject, think about the fact that the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, the same group that murdered all the ostriches in British Columbia, right, now want Alberta farmers and ranchers to have birth certificates for every calf born in Alberta, right? So when they come and seize your farm or seize your ranch, they know exactly how many animals that you have, so you can't hide them from them. So if they want to seize your herd and murder your herd like they did to the ostriches, they've got it all accounted for. Like, what do we say to that? I say, hell no! And again, this is why we say that that Mark Carney and his government are an existential threat to the province of Alberta. Every time we turn around, they find some new way to make our lives miserable. right? Whether it's the West Coast tanker ban, whether it's, the emission caps, the production cap, the guns, the firearms seizures, needless firearms seizures. There's no more law-abiding people in this country than licensed RPAL holders, right? The very fact that we've all been forced into becoming custodians of our own property for Justin Trudeau for the last 3 years, without a single crime anywhere in Canada being committed by an RPAL holder in any of their seized firearms, indicates to you how safe and law-abiding every RPAL holder in this province is, right? And again, we have Daniel Smith refusing to issue us, oh, hang on, is Jesus in the house, or are they trying to make us clear out of the room, or what? Somebody pulled the fire alarm. I didn't receive to do that. But anyway, that's what we are dealing with on an ongoing basis, right? We need Danielle Smith to pay attention. We need her to issue firearms licenses in Alberta. And above all, stop talking like a globalist. Every time she says, strong Alberta within a united Canada, that's globalist speak for the fact that we're going to keep Alberta under Carney and communist China's thumb. Right? Let's keep in mind that that's what it's all about. Every time she says net zero, that's globalist speak for, you can be taxed to death for producing resources, for working, for driving to work, for producing food on your farms, for trying to go to work to take care of your children. That's what that's all about. If you ever hear any politician pay lip service to the words net zero, here's a big spoiler alert. They're a globalist, and you need to tell them they need to turn their brain around, or we're not going to vote for them. It's that simple. What have we seen in the last couple of weeks? And it was kind of funny, CPD was here earlier, I don't know if they're still here right now, but I wasted half an hour of my life, I think yesterday or today, talking to them about what we're doing and why and how. They took a 10-second clip of what I was saying, but the most important thing I said to them was at the very outset, and you can see the reporter was kind of discombobulated. She goes, well, Mr. Rath, what do you think that, is going on in the independence movement? And I said, well, before we even get into this, I said, this is a national news program. So I want to send a big shout out to Mark Carney, because he is the best salesman that Alberta independence has ever had. Every time he opens his little mealy mouth, he drives another 100,000 or more Albertans to our banner, right? Let's just look at the last week, and Mitch has already showed you the clip of, Mark Carney. I was actually joking with friends that, he looked like he was on scopolamine when he said, New World Order, right? But, the next day, I don't think he was on drugs, maybe, whatever. But the next day, a reporter asked him what he meant when he said New World Order.
All we were experiencing was minor and has been corrected.
All right. So, for whoever
attention, please. All we were experiencing was minor and has been corrected.
All right.
Carry on with
Wow. This reminds me of my mother-in-law. I can't get a word in edgewise.
All we were experiencing was minor and has been corrected. It is absolutely no cause for concern. Please carry on with what you were doing.
All right, there we go. So I just want to say, for whoever the little forever Canadian or NDPer was that pulled the fire alarm, we know who you are. Yeah, we see you. Yeah. So anyway, I kind of lost my train of thought there. But anyway, speaking of which, I was laughing with somebody today. This will get me back on track. But I heard Nenshi had a hysterical, hissy fit news conference today, all about everything we're doing and what bad people we are. Okay. How many people here think we're bad people? right? How many people here would ever vote for Naheed Nenshi? Right? Yeah, that's what we're dealing with. So I said to a friend of mine today, I said, oh, did you see Nenshi's speech today? And I said, why would I waste my time doing that? Like, why would I want to hear anything that moron has to say, first of all? And then second of all, just to be clear, right? If Naheed Nenshi says Alberta independence is a bad idea, that is the best endorsement we have. It is a fantastic idea. Okay, so let's go Nenshi and interlude. The fire alarm interlude's over. I think my brain's now back on track to where I was. So what I was talking about was Mark Carney and his whole New World Order speech in China. I'm surprised he didn't give his little Illuminati symbol hands thing when he was in China as well, right? Gotta do that. That'll let the Illuminati know you're on side, right? But anyway, the next day, his reporter asks him, because he had a great 3 days. So the next day, he comes out, and the reporter asks him, what did you mean when you meant New World Order? And then he goes through a whole bunch of typical word salad that comes out of the mouth of a liberal. And then he says, well, what I really meant by that is bilateral relations, like between like-minded countries. So I went, wow. So Mark Carney, Prime Minister of Canada, says that Canada and the Canadian government is like-minded to the communist dictatorship of communist China. Thank you for confirming everything that we have already thought, right? And then the next day, so of course my friend Keith Wilson has a great line about Carney, and he says, yeah, he doesn't even live in Canada, he just visits from time to time for a day or two, and then he jets off somewhere else, right? So anyway, when Carney was visiting Canada the day after clarifying that by New World Order, he meant that we were like-minded to the communist dictatorship in communist China. So the next day he comes home and then decides it's a good idea to invoke Article 5 of the NATO treaty with regard to our friends in the United States of America, right? Well, for those of you that aren't familiar with what Article 5 of the NATO treaty is, that's the provision of the treaty that requires members of NATO to militarily come to the defense of any NATO country that's attacked. So Carney's not even home for 24 hours after visiting his communist masters in Beijing, right? And he's threatening war with the United States of America under Article 5 of the NATO treaty. I'm 61 years old, right? I studied foreign policy, Canadian history, when I was doing my honors degree in political science at the University of Alberta. I'm very familiar with the history of Canada, and I have lived experience of 61 years on this planet. At no point in my life, or anywhere in a Canadian history book that I'm familiar with, has a Canadian Prime Minister ever threatened war with the United States of America, right? Think about how asinine that is, right? Mark Carney is literally like a mouse nibbling on an elephant's toenail, and he thinks that he just has to say elbows up, and Donald Trump is going to roll over, and Mark Carney's going to get everything that he wants. It's completely asinine. But I guess it plays with the voters in Ontario. It may play with the voters in Quebec, but I suspect with our friend Paul St-Pierre Plamondon getting elected in Quebec, the liberal days in Quebec may be coming to an end, right? But Mark Carney is literally that big of a buffoon, right? Then he goes to the World Economic Forum. He's had a great 4 days or 5 days, right? Goes to the World Economic Forum, and again, goes out of his way to be gratuitously insulting and rude and all the rest of it to Canada's largest trading partner, right? We literally have hundreds of billions of dollars in trade at risk with the United States of America. As Mitch indicated, almost 90% of all Alberta trade is north-south, not east-west, right? But there's Mark Carney gratuitously insulting the President of the United States without mentioning him by name. And of course, President Trump's reaction the next day was great. He came out to the stage in Davos, literally pantsed Mark Carney, gave him a bare-bottom spanking in front of the entire world, completely humiliated Mark Carney, right? The only thing that Trump didn't do to Carney was drag him off to the washroom and give him a swirly, right? And this is the Prime Minister of Canada, right? And, I'm doing interviews, the other day, and I'm talking about this with a reporter, and they said, but didn't you hear? Mark Carney came out the other day and says he cares about national unity. I said, wow. Does he care about national unity? That's great. Because it's like, he hasn't repealed the West Coast tanker ban. He hasn't repealed the carbon emissions cap. He hasn't repealed the production cap. You know, he hasn't stopped talking about how the federal government is going to enforce net zero on the Alberta power grid. He hasn't stopped talking about criminalizing, you know, hundreds of thousands of Albertans if they don't turn in their property, which is subject to Section 9213 of the BNA Act, which is exclusive jurisdiction over property and civil rights in the province, but he still thinks he can just come in and seize our property under the criminal law power, right? So he's doing that, right? And then on top of it, and Mitch alluded to it, the ink wasn't even dry, right, on that so-called pipe dream MOU that Danielle signed, right? And Mark Carney was bragging about a 600% increase in the industrial carbon tax in Alberta, right? Yeah, he and Danielle are going, oh, this is going to bring business to Alberta. Well, wait a minute, right? So 600% increase in the $90 industrial carbon tax. So $540 a ton is what they want to tax carbon with in Alberta, right? It's $30 in Quebec, by the way, right? And somehow or other, this is a good deal. We should all be jumping up and down for joy that Mark Carney got such a great deal by getting Danielle to concede a 600% carbon tax increase. So when this reporter says, well, Jeff, Mark Carney says that he wants to, Canada to be united and he cares about unity. My response is, then tell him to stop lacing up his hobnailed boots and trying to kick us all to death with his stupid policies. And again, we know that he won't do that. And again, God bless him, because he is the best salesman for Alberta independence that we could ever have. The other thing that I'd like everybody to consider, again, I promise not to just be negative all night tonight, is how much better off we are going to be in a free and independent Alberta, right? I want everybody to contemplate for a minute the $70 billion a year that Albertans send to Ottawa in the form of federal taxes, CPP, and UI. That's right, $70 billion a year. Leave this province not to come back. 15 billion to Quebec, that big have-not province of Ontario, 500 million, $500 million to Ontario, the Maritimes, and then all the other waste, right? So Trudeau's electric choo-choo train from Toronto to Montreal. Carney wants to spend $200 billion to rearm Europe, right? What about the $69 billion that the Liberals have sent to Ukraine, right? I read the other day that Ukraine has $22 billion in gold reserve, right? Wow, isn't that nice? We're generous people. Albertans have sent billions of dollars to Ukraine so that they can maintain $22 billion in gold reserves that they haven't had to tap into, because all of us generous Albertans are taking money out of our back pockets and letting Mark Carney send it wherever he wants in the world. And again, think about what Mitch said earlier. We all know that Ukraine and the Ukrainian government is one of the most notoriously corrupt governments in the world. So Zelensky has yachts, castles, ski resorts. I mean, Christian Freeland had to quit her job in Parliament as a Liberal to go over and help Zelensky hide all of his money, right? So how many of us here actually think that when billions of dollars are being sent to the Ukraine, right, that it's not being laundered back into the offshore bank accounts of members of the Liberal Party, friends of the Liberal Party, members of the Liberal cabinet, et cetera, et cetera? I sure don't, right? It's all of these programs, Trudeau's gender programs in the third world, all of the money that gets shipped overseas, it goes into a black box with no accountability, and none of us know where this money is going, other than we know it's not staying in Alberta to take care of Albertans. And I say that it's time for all of that to stop. Right? And we have a really easy and clear way forward here. All we have to do is keep doing what we did today. We have to volunteer our time. We have to And it was fun. I mean, I spent an hour down there this afternoon in between getting some other things done today. And I mean, the energy and the excitement and the chatter and everybody making new friends and all of the volunteers and all the canvassers working together. I mean, it's such a great vibe. It's like tonight. It's this whole event tonight. People making new friends, Albertans working together. All we need to do is keep doing that until the 6th of May, right? And we get our 1.8 million signatures, and we get Alberta the hell out of Canada. Now, Mitch addressed this earlier, and I do want to speak to a little bit because it's something that comes up with the reporters all the time. We are not pursuing statehood with the United States of America. We are, however, meeting with them on a regular basis because I think it's important for us to be able to come back and tell our fellow Albertans what the attitude is of our most important trading partner when it comes to Alberta independence. I mean, let's face it, this entire project would be dead if the United States government told us, look, you guys are whistling in the dark, and the fact of the matter is, we're not going to support Alberta independence. If you guys try to leave Canada, we won't support it. We'll shut down the border. We won't buy your oil anymore. We're not going to buy your beef. You guys can just behave yourselves, because we're globalists like Carney, and we think you should just shut up and behave. No, but that's not what they're saying. They have told us directly that they are enthusiastic about the prospect of Alberta independence, right? And do you know why they're enthusiastic about the prospect of Alberta independence? It's because they know. I mean, you see the picture that Mitch put up of the 11 faceless MPs that are Chinese, communist Chinese agents. We're not allowed to know who they are. I mean, it's obvious from New World Order. Mark Carney's a Chinese agent. There's no doubt about it, right? He's the Prime Minister, and he's governing this country for Brookfield and for China, right? He's not governing, demonstrably not governing it for Canada or Alberta, right? So, within the U.S. national interest and their new strategic, the new document that they released on U.S. strategic policy, right? They recognize that, the Alberta oil field, right, needs to be liberated from control by communist China, right? And that means liberating the Alberta oil field from control by the Carney Liberals, because the Carney Liberals are controlled by communist China, right? It's pretty straightforward. The other thing that's really remarkable, and I don't know if any of you saw it, but just 2 or 3 days ago, Scott Bessent, the U.S. Treasury Secretary, who arguably is the second most powerful man in the world, right, announced that he would welcome an Alberta pipeline down through the United States to the Pacific Northwest to service the markets of Korea, Japan, etc. in a heartbeat. Now that he's opened the door for Danielle, hopefully she's sending a delegation down to Washington immediately to follow up the work we've been doing to get that done. It's humiliating to Albertans to have to go on bended knee to a socialist government in British Columbia and beg them permission for a pipeline, right? And I mean, just a little thought for everybody to think about, because that is one of the big, the big things that the forever communists say, and all the, all the CBC people say. Well, if Alberta became independent, you'd be landlocked. It's like, we're landlocked now, right? Completely landlocked, right? But if Alberta were an independent country, even dealing with British Columbia would be so much easier. It's like, okay, BC, you don't want a pipeline through British Columbia? Carney says you have a veto? Okay, well, let's talk about that, right? New independent government of Alberta, country of Alberta. We're really concerned about keeping British Columbia rats out of the province of Alberta, right? And because we're a rat-free province, right, we are going to stop every train and every truck coming out of Vancouver, coming out of British Columbia, at the Alberta border, right? BC rats. Any rat carrying an NDP card will be sent right back to Vancouver. I'm not saying that facetiously, obviously. It's not a realistic scenario, because we would say we could do that, or you could give us a pipeline. I mean, how hard would that be, right? And that's the reality of it. As an independent country, Alberta would be able to negotiate from a position of strength with British Columbia to get a pipeline through BC. And the Americans have already said that they would be enthusiastically in support of an Alberta pipeline going to the Pacific Northwest, right? And these are honorable people. I take them at their word. The other thing is we could also have a pipeline straight down to the Gulf of America, right? But more importantly, as an independent country, we would get rid of all of the federal regulations choking our oil industry, right? We would get rid of all of the NDP regulations brought in by the Nazi government choking our industry, right? We would be able to double oil production in this province within 5 years, right? By having people that work in the oil industry who understand how the industry works, help get rid of all of the regulations that are making oil and gas projects in this province, year-long affairs to get done, right? We don't need any of that in Alberta, right? And we just need to come up with smarter ways to work to make Alberta the richest, most prosperous, least taxed, and least regulated jurisdiction in North America. Take care of our kids, right? All of that's going to be possible. Alberta will control its own immigration. There's a document that I was involved in drafting with a bunch of economists and people smarter than me, bankers, etc. Where we talked about, what the fiscal plan for a future of Alberta would look like, right? In that document, we talk about the things that Alberta would pay for, like, our immigration department. And we make it clear that it's our immigration and deportation department. After funding everything that the federal government funds currently for us, including tripling the amount of money spent on Indigenous communities to lift them out of the abject poverty that Carney and Trudeau have left them in, we still have communities in this province that don't have safe drinking water. That's an embarrassment to me as an Albertan. It's despicable, right? All of that can be fixed, and then after that, we would still have a $37 to $57 billion a year fiscal capacity surplus. Think about that. And that's where all the tax savings and tax cuts would come from, because a government of an independent Alberta would believe that money needs to be left in our pockets and not held by bureaucrats in Edmonton to spend as they please on ridiculous World Economic Forum projects. We can literally, constitutionally limit government spending, go to real currency, no more fiat currency, where a bank governor like Carney can double the money supply and literally steal 50% of the money in your bank account, steal 50% of the equity of your home just by doubling the money supply and inflating, your money into meaninglessness. Think about it. When you go to the grocery store, right, and you see that grocery prices in the last 5-10 years have more than doubled, right? It's not that groceries are more expensive, your money's worth half as much, right? Thank you, Mr. Carney. That will not happen in a free and independent Alberta. Again, there are so many benefits to Alberta getting out of Canada. And I put this challenge out to Danielle Smith more than once. And my challenge for any of them, the forever communists, little commie, the commie, all of them, I want, instead of talking about all your fear and BS about, think about this and think about that, you don't love Canada, and you're a traitor, you're this and you're that. No, stop with all of that nonsense. Give us one good reason that Albertans will be better off if they stayed in Canada. Just one. They can't do it. Can't do it, because the reality is we have thousands of good reasons for leaving, right? They don't have one good reason for any of us to stay anymore. Not one. So that's, what I'd like all of you to reflect on. And when you're talking to your friends and neighbors, when I want all of you to get your canvassing badges and you're out getting signatures, if somebody asks you that question, just ask them that question, right? If you think of one reason that Alberta would be better off if we stayed in Canada, you're still going to be Canadian citizens. You're still going to have your Canadian passport if you want to keep it. On top of it, right, all this nonsense of, you're going to lose your pension. You're not going to lose your pension. Pensions are a contractual obligation. OAS, we're going to have so much money in a free and independent Alberta, we are going to be able to take care of our seniors, take care of our veterans, take care of our pensioners, right? double the amount that they're getting paid, right? And still not have to pay any federal or any income tax. So think about that. So I've actually gone on a lot longer than I usually do. This is a hell of a captive audience. Thank you very much. So anyway, I just want to thank all of you tonight for coming out. I want to tell all of you how proud I am to be an Albertan tonight. How proud I am of each and every one of you. And I want to say thank you, Calgary, for showing Alberta that we can stay out.
Jeff Rath, ladies and gentlemen. Before we continue, folks, I gotta make sure to give one last thank you tonight to everyone who dug deep into their pockets and donated to Stay Free Alberta. Well, .com or Stay Free Alberta. Don't forget over in the corner again, for anybody who came late, there is a table accepting donations up to $50. Anything higher, please ask. They'll arrange what can work for you. Don't forget there's merch at the back as well as lawn signs if you want to make sure to lawn signs if you want to let people know that you're voting for independence. Signatures, I've been told signatures are going until 10 o'clock, folks, so if you haven't yet got signatures in for the petition, make sure to head downstairs. We've got until 10 o'clock to get that done. Join me, there will be no Q&A tonight, but join me on Unacceptable Fringe on YouTube. Jeff Rath and Mitch Sylvester will be joining me on a series of live stream events where you can come and ask your questions. You will be heard. We'll make sure no one enters this without their questions answered. So if you want your questions answered, again, you can see the...
Guys, thank you so much for joining this live stream. I don't know if you can hear me or not. I'm going to go and stop and talk to the Fringe guy. I found him. I didn't know who he is until you guys commented. Let's see what's going on around.
If anybody has lost this, head over to the doors over here where the green room is. We'll make sure it's left in there for you to pick up after the event. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank each and every one of you who came out tonight. I want to thank each and every one of you for your support. And playing us out tonight, a new Alberta Independence anthem called Alberta Unleashed from Dave McKenzie. Thank you, everybody. Drive safe. Have a great night.
The time now is come for you.
Second, guys. Sorry. Hey, people in the comments told me to come to talk to you.
Oh, hi.
I didn't know you, but people in the comments in the live stream said, come talk to you.
How you doing, guys? Matt from the Unacceptable Fringe channel. Mike Freedom Money's here. The guy who was up on stage in the cowboy hat, this is his channel. We run on that.
Oh, that's awesome. They were telling me Derek. Who's Derek?
Derek was the guy who's the MC of the event.
Oh, I see. They were saying, go talk to Derek. I'm like, who's Derek?
He'll be out in a minute, probably.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Hey, Matt. Pleasure to meet you.
How you doing?
Awesome. That's forever.
Oh, thank you. We do what we can for the cause, right? It's a noble cause. Thank you.
Hey, let me take a picture with you.
What? You guys too. You got sign today?
All right, guys, I'm going to meet this awesome person over here for an unacceptable Fringe, and I'll get back to you guys. We'll see you soon.